mule, kind of the play off of that 40 acres and a mule name and everything. But I remember them talking about things that we literally see every day out in the wild that are very edible. Like I'm trying to think of some of them. I mean, there's like a plant that is not coming to me. It's got like an unusual name, and I want to say it begins with a P. But it's like out in the wild, and people see it all the time. But it can taste almost like spinach, and I wish I could think of the name of that plant, but it's not coming to me, and I don't know if I'm giving a good description that is helping you at all, Miss Boyd, but I know that it's like out there in the wild and everything, but I know there's several plants that are out there that are like just off the side of the street, like you said, that we see all the time that can actually be put into our regular diet with our regular meals and everything.
Yes. And that's something that's also covered, and that's one of the things I attended a workshop not too long ago on edible plants. And it's bringing that knowledge back to the current generations and younger generations to say we don't want to lose that. And if people are going out and they're cutting and they're destroying these natural edible plants, then we're throwing our ecosystem off balance.
Yeah. And definitely nature, and it seems like there is a movement for us to eat more healthy. I mean, we hear people, whether that's like the natural grocery stores, and there are several of them that are out there, or whether that's the farmers markets, which are very popular in all kinds of cities. So we know that farmers are very much a part of what we need and part of our economy and part of our lifestyle and everything. But I think that just us as a modern society have gotten so much into the fast food kind of generation that a lot of times it seems like we don't want to do the work in order to actually get the items that we have to get if we want to get like natural strawberries or natural watermelons or things of that nature. And we're more than happy to rush off to the grocery store and let somebody like you provide it to the grocery store and let them do all the growing, even though it's something that can be done very basically by just about anybody.
Right, and that's one of the other at 3 of our previous conferences, I think 2014, 15, and 16, we actually had FNS, Food and Nutrition Service Agency from USDA, come in and set up EBT SNAP Retail Farmers Market sign up on spot. And the thing is, if you are growing your mint, right, and your fresh herbs, you could actually apply to FNS to get an EBT machine, because most time people have to go to certain vendors to be able to use those benefits. But imagine if the local farmers or growers or producers had that equipment, and now people could buy in their communities, their chickens, their eggs, their vegetables or whatever, then that's keeping the monies in our communities a little bit longer, which I think we need to do more of. And the thing is, a lot of people don't stop at roadside stands, that gentleman selling his watermelon beside the road, because they want to use their credit or debit cards or their SNAP benefits. But FNS actually had the program, the SNAP program, where our farmers could sign up and they could get the free equipment. They could choose between an iPhone or an iPhone, mini iPad, or an Android phone, and they actually paid the phone bill for 3 years. And those point-of-sale machines that they had, because they got the card reader and a portable printer, they could accept EBT, debit, or credit cards. And those monies went straight to their personal bank accounts. And that's the thing. And then at the end of the year, when you go to file your taxes, a lot of individuals are familiar with a Schedule C, which is how you report self-employment income. But for farmers, we file a Schedule F for your farm income. So imagine now, if you know growing that garden and selling it, your produce or your value-added products, now at the end of the year, you can write that off on your taxes.
And I'm also amazed at sometimes, you just mentioned chickens earlier, but a lot of times people forget that you can actually grow, or I guess it's growing because you're going to eventually eat them, but you can actually grow a lot of the foods that are natural foods, that are animal foods, even in urban areas. Because I know there's been some people that have had chicken farms even around the Durham area, and I think there have been people that have probably had rabbit farms and other animals that are definitely part of our food ecosystem that they're actually developing within the city limits. Imagine there's certain rules and regulations. I mean, not that you can have it right in the middle of, like, New York City, but there are ways that you can probably grow some of even your more meat byproduct foods and not just your vegetables and your fruits.
Yes, and that's just like with the goats. Now they're doing goat scaping. And, I have Nigerian dwarf goats. And the reason I went with the Nigerian dwarf goats because they're dairy goats and I can milk them. So I use them around with my landscaping. And I can get the milk and I can do cheese, and I can even use skincare products. And so that's the thing. We need to look at versatility in the crops and what we're doing, and just saying, is there a passion or is there a need in my community for a particular type of product or a crop?
Yeah, because that is one of the things I've noticed even around here in Durham and definitely around Raleigh is that the whole concept of, and you just said it in the ways they are farms as well, but the whole concept of community gardening over the last probably decade or so became very popular, where everybody was finding like these abandoned corners, sometimes even in gentrified neighborhoods, that they would then put a community, what they call a community garden in, and then oftentimes it would be everything from regular foods that are, we talk about like vegetables and fruits, to some of the things like mints and even some more like garden-like items like roses and stuff like that.
Right. And so even with some of the flowers, like if you were doing hibiscus and looking, there's a young lady, Benita Clemens, one of our farmers down in South Carolina. I think she's Columbia, South Carolina. And she is marketing her hibiscus ginger tea. And she can't get enough hibiscus. And so actually outsourcing some of the crops and the needs, and finding out the partnership. And like you said, whether it be roses, the cut flowers, different things, and saying, what it is, but going back to growing, actually reconnecting with the land, because what we do to the water and to the soil, we eventually do to us.
Exactly.
And so I think that that's important as stewards and caretakers to realize that, we need these plants, we need these animals, and so we need to begin to nurture and to rebuild that connection. Our theme for our conference this year is going to be regaining, reclaiming, regenerating our family farms. And our conference, I'll put that plug in there, is November 2nd and 3rd. It's going to be in Shreveport, Louisiana, and it's free to attend. We don't charge any registration. And we also have a conference coming up in North Carolina. It's going to be September 29th at the Sheraton Convention Center. I think it's Imperial Drive, but we'll be sending out some postcards and some other information. Make sure you guys get it. And it's completely free to attend. We'll have representatives there from USDA, and we'll be going over some of these examples of small-scale farms and doing some gifts for some seeds and some plants, because really what we want to do is just encourage people, to reconnect and to start growing. Go and get those farm serial numbers. We just completed the 2017 Ag Census, and what is disheartening about that census is that you have to ask to participate. It's voluntary. So no one comes knocking on your door saying, okay, we're doing the 2017 Ag Census. Are you a farmer? Do you have farmland?
Which comes to my next question, and I'm getting ready to wrap up because we're getting the show about 9 o'clock, but how many of us are actually listed as black farmers currently? And like I said, I know that there's always talk that we need to have more black farmers, and we probably do, but how many are currently listed, and are we anywhere near the percentage of our population?
No, we're only probably about 2%, 1 to 2% of actual overall farmers, and I'm not sure of the latest census number, which would have been 2012, forgive me, but the average age of the African-American farmer is over 60 years old.
So we don't have that many young farmers, so we need to get more young people involved in farming, because unfortunately they're all being geared toward careers in the tech field and things of that nature, which can be a wonderful field, but they probably can make just as much money as they could be in a doctor or a computer person if they know what they're doing in the agricultural field.
Right, because there's GPS engineering, there's droids. There's so much farming now through advanced technology that we need those skill sets. And there are places, and, a lot of the companies now are looking for diversity. And so we get calls and have the opportunity sometimes to refer individuals over to some of these companies.
And if somebody wanted to get in touch with you to learn more about the National Black Farmers Association, what is the best website, the best telephone number, the best email? You mentioned a couple of the events that you've got coming up, but how can they find out about the number of things that y'all do so much work? And I hope to have y'all back on at another time so we can continue this conversation, because I do think, having grown up in a rural area, that this conversation about trying to get more of our people involved in farming is a very important one, and I know that hunting season is getting ready to come up on us as well, and that's a whole other conversation that farmers are oftentimes involved with, because a lot of times, because of the nature of their crops, there's sometimes a connection between farmland and like going after the deers and stuff like that, because unfortunately deer sometimes are trying to get at the same thing that we're trying to get at, which is the crops.
Right. And so we're actually in the process, I can give your listeners a heads up. We're in the process of opening a restaurant over in the Henderson, North Carolina area, and we've had a poll on our Facebook page, and it looks like the name for the restaurant may be 40 Acres Restaurant.
Oh, cool.
And and we also have a website, wegrowfarmers.com, but our main website is nationalblackfarmersassociation.org. And the best email to contact me is the acronym for the association, N as in Nancy, B as in boy, F as in Frank, A as in apple, .Kara, Kara, @gmail.com. And they can always give me a call. I love to talk, as you can tell. And my number is 804-691-8528.
Now, did you grow up in a rural area, and did you always think that you were going to be involved in farming, or did this come about because you married a person whose family is 4 generations or 5 generations of farmers? Or were you also one that was involved in farming, or is this kind of like, did you back in your way into it?
Well, I'm originally from Robeson County, North Carolina, and so I grew up farming. I grew up in those tobacco fields, even at my age, and I'm in my 40s, remember being in the fields when the school buses came by, and I was out there helping my uncle, my great uncle, get his crop in. And so, farming, growing, producing, helping my aunts milk cows and churn butter and all those things. So I was very blessed to have been raised by an older generation in farming. And then when I married Dr. Boyd, this just kind of expanded some of the work I was doing, because we also have the Association of American Indian Farmers and National Association of American Indian Farmers Association. And I actually have roots in Warren County, so we're probably relatives.
It's quite possible, because I know that I have one of my cousins is very much involved. I'm trying to get her on the show in the whole powwow culture. So she's one of the powwow competitors that competes every year and has a school in Hollister called Raven Street School. But Verna Street and her husband Lonnie are actually oftentimes winners in the powwows around the country. So they go to the ones here in North Carolina, the ones in California, the ones in Arizona, the ones all over the place. So, yes, we probably are distantly related some kind of way or another.
Yes, I know Verna and her father Fred and lots of individuals over there. And so, we come from those communities, and that's what we're doing, is trying to reconnect, because food, is a way for us to come together. And food is medicine, food is sustainability. And, without the farms, we wouldn't have houses. That's where the timber comes from. Without the cotton, our clothing, and so many different things. And so we want to make sure that individuals who have an interest in learning more or becoming more engaged, or maybe they already have a farm operation and they run into issues and they're kind of getting the runaround, that's what we're here for, to help with the advocacy, but also the direct technical assistance.
Well, we definitely have appreciated having you on the show. I think I heard the noise and the music in the background. It means that we're getting ready to wind down. I'm going to ask Gene if he's got any words of wisdom, since he grew up in Virginia around some farmers as well. And like I say, I know that the importance of farming to our society, and I think that oftentimes we forget about the importance of farming, thinking that, we're living in the fast food generation and the fast food, fast everything kind of society, that we oftentimes forget about how important farmers are to our society and the very necessary role that they play in our lives on a regular basis. But, Gene, you got any words of wisdom?
Simply put, no farmers, we don't eat. So we thank you and we appreciate you for all the things that you do to make sure that we eat the way we are supposed to,
Thank you.
And like I said before, we definitely will try to reach out to you and Hadasai and hopefully get your husband on as well, because this is definitely one of the topics that we hope to have more conversations about, because we know farming is a very important issue that folks need to be thinking about on a regular basis, because sometimes we don't think about the impact that farmers have even on our environment and on our economy, and they're involved in all of that in very various ways. So that's a conversation that I hope to have you back on in an upcoming edition of this particular podcast.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it.
Sounds good.